Awesome. So welcome everybody to tonight's call. I'm so looking forward to this call because we have a very, very special guest joining us to share her wisdom. And it is none other than my upline, who is Kim Reid, Presidential Diamond, which is awesome. So Kim's amazing. She's like this silent little ninja, I call her. She just quietly goes about her stuff, but she's a powerhouse, but she's not one of those big out there kind of look at me, look at me. She just quietly goes about it and has built a very, very successful business. What I find most inspiring about Kim is that she is a self-confessed introvert. She's very, I guess, not an out there person, so not overly confident speaking in front of a group, which I think is something that we can all resonate with, especially when we're starting. So I'm really looking forward to hearing Kim share about how she confronts those fears and how she tackles that stuff and how she hasn't let it stop her from growing a really solid, stable and successful business. So I'm going to chuck it over to you, Kim. Thank you so much for joining us on this call.
Thanks, Carla. Thanks for the beautiful intro. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the call. So the topic that Carla gave me, or maybe it was Chloe, I'm not sure who chose it, but the topic that I'm going to be speaking about is facing your fears and overcoming your blocks. So I'm quite happy to speak about that. I've probably got lots to say about that. But as far as the overcoming your blocks, when people say to me, how do you overcome your blocks? It always makes me feel really blah, like your blocks, like even that word is just such an unempowering word. It's just probably one of my least favorite words or least favorite statements, saying I feel really blocked, because we create that. So our fears that we have and things that make us feel blocked are usually the thoughts that we're having. So if we're thinking, no one's booking in classes, I can't find any people, all those thoughts, then that's going to make us feel really blocked. So as you guys will know, that it's our thoughts that create that feeling. If you're feeling blocked in your business, it's actually just a thought, not an actual fact. So if you can change up your thoughts, then obviously you can change up the way that you feel within your business. So that's one of the most powerful things that I've felt. And I remember early on when I started my business, I didn't really know what blocked meant. It was such a new concept to me. I come from corporate, and when you're in a corporate job, people don't come up to you and say, Kim, how do you get through your blocks? Like it's not something you really talk about in the corporate world. So when I came into doTERRA and people were like, Kim, how do you overcome your blocks? I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? I just go do the work. Like, to me, it just, it seems so simple. But when I think about fears, when I start thinking about how did I overcome my fears, I don't know if you ever do overcome all your fears. Like I've never met anybody in my whole life that has no fears. Everyone has fears. I know all the presidential diamonds obviously quite well in doTERRA, and I know that they all still have fears. So it's not about overcoming your fears. It's just about still doing the action, even when you've got the fears. And that's what I've continued to do. So when I first started, and I don't know how many of you guys have heard this story, but I have told it a few times, about the day that I ordered my kit was the day that I quit doTERRA. So I ordered my kit, and then my upline is Tara Bliss. So I ordered my kit through Tara, and then later that day I quit and told her that I was going to return my kit and I didn't want to do it anymore. And the reason why I went from thinking, I want to get the biggest kit ever and I'm going to go smash out this business to wanting to quit was obviously the thoughts that I was having in my head. Nothing actually physically changed in my business. There was nothing that happened. It was just my thoughts. And it was after watching somebody do a class, like it was just a YouTube video of someone doing a class, and they presented the class amazingly and gave all these top tips on how to present a class. And I watched that and I thought, there is no way I can ever get up and teach a class. There's no way I'm going to get up in front of a group of people and teach an oil class. And as soon as I had that thought, that was when it just sort of, it was like it opened up a gateway for so many more doubts and fears to come in. So I started thinking, I can never do that. Then I started thinking, I've already got such a really good job. What am I thinking? Doing oil classes in people's homes, as if this is ever going to work out for me. Why did I just spend, I think I spent like $800 or $900 on a starter kit. Why did I spend that much on oils? Like just all these fears and doubts started coming in. And then I really convinced myself that, Kim, that was such a stupid idea. Why did you buy that kit? And I told Tara that I wasn't going to do it anymore. So obviously I overcame those fears and doubts. And really for me, what overcame it was thinking about my vision and my why. So my vision, my long-term vision, was that I was going to quit my job. I was going to travel with my family around Australia, and I was going to get Rob home. So I had that big, strong vision. And then after I quit, I started thinking, well, what's going to get me there? And I couldn't think of anything else. It was like doTERRA had answered all of that for me, but I was letting my fears get in the way because really I was just too scared to get up and speak in front of people. So for me, what overcome those fears in the initial stage was me just telling myself to get over it. And that was I really going to let those fears get in the way of my big vision? And of course the answer was no. And once I decided that this was it, this was what was going to get me to that goal, I didn't let any other fears get in my way. I made a decision that, yes, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work towards my bigger vision, and nothing's going to get in my way. Even if I'm really, really scared, which I really was, on the way to my first few classes, I was like praying and begging that my car would break down because I really didn't want to do it. I felt physically sick to the tummy. My voice definitely would have been shaking. There's been many classes that I felt extreme anxiety at the start, and there's been classes where I felt so anxious that I couldn't even talk and just started handing around oils for, I don't know, 5 minutes until I could just get myself together and settle myself down and start talking. That happened so many times, and that happened even when I was probably diamond and blue diamond. There was classes when people would introduce me and say, we're so lucky to have amazing diamond leader Kim Reid here, and I just felt like my heart was going to burst out of my chest, and that just got me straight into a massive panic attack, and I had to calm myself down right there in the class. So there's been so many times, and there continues to be so many times that I'm really, really scared. And for me, it's just about thinking about my vision and keeping going anyway. So I loved it. I don't know if you guys saw, and I can't even think if it was leadership or convention when Rosie Nerney did her talk. I can't remember which one it is, but I just remember Rosie talking about fears and facing your fears, and she spoke about how everybody has fears, but the leaders are the people that just don't set up camp there. So we have those thoughts and those feelings, but we don't set up camp there. We don't get stuck there. We just keep moving along anyway and keep doing the action. Okay, so stuck is when you've got all those thoughts and you've just stopped and you've let those thoughts that you're having take control of what action you're taking. And usually the action that you're taking after you're having those thoughts is no action. Okay, but if you can flip those thoughts to be, okay, nobody turned up at the class today, I'm going to just keep going anyway. This is just a little hurdle along my way, and I'm going to look back and laugh at this one day. Then you're going to keep going and you're not going to get stuck. And I've definitely had classes that people haven't shown up to. During my presidential month, I drove, it was from when I was living in Victoria, I was living in Sale, and I travelled to, Carla, where did I travel? It was past Warrnambool. I can't even think now.
It was Horsham.
Horsham. It took me like 5 hours. It was this lady that had bought a kit, and she said she was going to have a big class for me. I got there, she only had 2 friends there, and they were really negative the whole class and didn't buy anything. So I drove 5 hours there, 5 hours back in my presidential month, when I definitely had other things that were really, really important to me doing. And I think I spoke to Carla on the way home, and we pretty much laughed at it the whole way home. And I didn't let it get me stuck, and I didn't let it get me down. And there was probably a few other classes that month that I did that was similar. I know that I had a couple more that there was no shows. I drove to Canberra, and I think I was doing 3 classes a day for a couple of days, and there was heaps of classes that there was no shows, or people that already had accounts. But I just kept going, and I couldn't get stuck in that mindset that, although I did have thoughts that month that maybe presidential wasn't happening, I couldn't get stuck there. I just had to keep going, because if I got stuck there, then I wouldn't have hit presidential diamond. I would have just given up and said that it wasn't happening. So stuck, I feel like being stuck is a choice. I feel like when we are stuck in our business, it's a choice that you have made. It's a choice that you have made to give in to your fears. So if you're feeling stuck, please know that it's up to you if you want to be stuck or unstuck. And the only way that you can be unstuck is change your thoughts and then take that action. Okay? There's some questions, is there? Big magic. What were you saying about that, Carla? It's like Elizabeth Gilbert's letter to fear.
She talks about that fear shows up. Bravery and courage is not doing something in the absence of fear, but it's doing something alongside fear. And she has this beautiful letter that she writes to fear. I'll post it up in the group after this call, but it's the best. And I remember reading it and I'm just like, oh my God, it's so good, because it talks about just acknowledging that fear that naturally comes up, but it's not sort of shunning it away and just pushing it down and like, I'm not scared, but just going, hey, fear, I recognize you. You always come up when I'm about to do something really big, and that's okay, but you can come for the ride and be here, but you're not to drive the car. You know, that sort of, it's this dialogue between her and this fear, and she talked about it like another entity kind of thing, and it was so good. I'll post it up in the group. But yeah, love that letter.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You said something before, Kim, and saying you didn't want to get stuck there, or you didn't want to let your fear, get you stuck. Do you find that it's really easy once you let one little thing hold you back, then it's easier to let other things, like the fear, sort of just snowballs from there, and then you get really stuck, not just in that one thing, but in other things as well?
Yeah, definitely. And that's definitely what happened to me that time that I quit. I let it snowball, and it was like I was trying to convince myself that fear was true, and I was trying to find supporting evidence that it was a really bad idea to do the business. And that's what we do when we experience a bit of fear. We try and find supporting evidence that is the truth, although it's not. And if you really explore it deep down, it's not the truth. but you want to stay safe. So you will be really digging down deep if you get stuck there to find evidence that your fear is the truth. Okay, so that's like some people that will start the business, for example, and they'll be doing it for a while and things aren't working out for them. And then they might say something like, I need to pull back because I need to be there for my kids. Because that's a really good excuse for yourself. And it's going to be really easy to find supporting evidence that you need to do that. Okay, and you, if that's your excuse, you'll find lots of supporting evidence why that's a good idea. Oh, my child cried when I went off to a class today. She's struggling at school at the moment. I just need to be there for my kids. Like, you'll find all this supporting evidence. Yeah, so I find that definitely comes in, and that's where we just need to be really, really great at self-coaching. So we need to be able to catch these thoughts really, really quickly and just feel them. You're having a thought that things aren't working out, just catch it really quickly and think, I know that's not true. I know I can do this. I know I can work towards my big vision. For me, and everybody's different. I know everyone's going to be different when you're working through this. I remember whenever I had those thoughts at the start, I just remember thinking, I don't have time for this crap. I've got so much work to do. And just would keep on building my business and keep on working. And I would just think, I don't have time for these doubts. I just got to keep on going. So that's something that I told myself, that I just didn't have time for those thoughts. And it wasn't part of where I wanted to be. So it wasn't going to be part of my life. So just think of something. Another thing to think of is, if you are getting those fears and those doubts, then usually that means that you're taking really big action, because those people that aren't getting those thoughts are in their comfort zone and probably not doing much in their business at all. Okay, so I want you to just remember that when those thoughts are coming into your head, it's usually because you've been taking some action out of your comfort zone, and you're trying to get safe again. Okay, there's a really good podcast that I've shared with my team, which is Brooke Costello, Massive Action. You guys have probably heard about Brooke Costello. I absolutely adore her, and I know that Tara and Alice have shared a bit about her as well. Is there a question, Guzzy? No, wrong. Was that the wrong group? So good.
Nobody mind.
All good? Okay, yeah, so this podcast, Massive Action. So this is about what action are we taking in our business. So sometimes people will say to me, oh, I've been doing so much work this week and my business isn't getting anywhere. And I'm like, well, how many people have you enrolled? Yeah, no one's enrolling. And I sort of start looking at what they're actually doing in their business, and it's probably not the inviting or the presenting or the enrolling. Okay, and so in Brooke's podcast, she speaks about passive action versus massive action. And I think the passive action that a lot of people take is in the preparing and the supporting. So they'll spend heaps of time preparing and getting all their social media beautiful, and I don't know, watching all the YouTube videos, being in the team groups, and then supporting. So doing mentor calls, supporting their team, creating programs for the team. Like, all this stuff is passive action, and it's stuff that we do need to do, but it's not actually stuff that's going to grow our business as quick as the stuff that is in massive action. And massive action for me is in the IPE, so the inviting, presenting, enrolling. And that's where we want to spend most of our time. If we're spending most of our time in the preparing and supporting, then usually that means we're going to be just holding rank. Sometimes we can even go back in rank if we're just in prepare and support mode. So there have definitely been times that I've had months where I'm just in prepare and support, but they're not obviously months that I'm going for a new rank. they're months that I'm just solidifying and happy to support my team. Okay. But definitely, if you're going for new ranks or you're wanting to be moving your business forward, you want to be doing the IPE, the inviting, presenting, enrolling, because that's where the massive action is. So yeah, if you haven't listened to that podcast, it's pretty awesome. And the do goals, yeah, that's an awesome one too. Did I have anything else? Do you have any other questions, Carla?
I've heard you talk a little bit before about, because I think one of your strengths is that you always think in opportunities. You don't get a knockback or something that doesn't go to plan and just go, yeah, that's it, that's the end of the month done, I'm not going to re-rank. You just go, bummer, all right, what else can I do? So can you talk to us a little bit more about how that looks for you in a day-to-day, especially like we're a few days out of end of month, and I know some of you guys are either aiming for a new rank or aiming to maintain rank or tick off some of the requirements that haven't been done yet for club. So can you talk to us about the mental approach to sticking to a goal regardless of the hurdles and obstacles that come up along the way?
Yeah. So for me, pretty much this whole time I've been in doTERRA, going back in rank has pretty much been not an option for me, because I'm looking to grow my business forward, not backwards. So there have been a couple of times that I haven't hit my rank, but I tell you, I've worked to the very end of the month, that very last minute, to try and do what I can to hit that rank. So for me, when I've made a commitment to anything, I just don't give up. I don't give up until the very last minute. And I do speak to my team about that. And we do talk about thinking in opportunities all the time. And if somebody comes to me and my team and tells me all their problems and all the things that are not going wrong, and maybe one of their leaders doesn't want to do the business anymore, or is one of the legs is not very strong at the moment, I'm just always like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Because we can sit there and we can blame it on other people and say they're not doing the business anymore, or they're not doing anything, they're not doing classes, or we can think about what we can do, what action are we going to take. And I think that, again, talking about getting blocked or getting stuck is usually when people are putting the blame on other people and not taking the responsibility for their own business and what their goals are. So I'm not going to be so me personally, and just the way I work, I'm not going to be letting anybody else get in the way of my goals. I definitely work with other people, and if people, for example, in my team, decide they don't want to do it anymore, which happens all the time, then I choose to work with other people that want to show up and want to work with me. So yeah, that's a good one, Carla. It's just the way I am. It's hard to explain on why I do that, but
we call it stubborn.
Yeah, maybe.
You actually said something to me this afternoon which I think sums up what you're saying perfectly, because we were talking about myself going for a bit of a goal by the end of the month, and we said that we'd reassess it in a few days' time, and we're on the same page. But just to be clear, Kim thought she'd just remind me what reassessing looks like, and she said not reassess it, like reassess how we're going to get it done in a few days, not reassess whether we will make it happen or not. We'll reassess how we're going to make it happen. And I think that's that mentality, and that's that thought process behind goals and stretching and reaching for those goals, especially at end of month stuff too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you start thinking about let's just see if we can do it this month, let's give it a go, then that's not probably giving the energy into that goal that it needs to get you there. Like, it needs to be we're going to do this. It's going to happen. If this idea that we've got right now isn't going to work, then let's look at something else in a few days and think of something else awesome that's going to work, because we're getting there. We're doing this, Carla.
Yes, we are.
Yes, determined, Danielle.
Yeah, there's so many different words for it. I just like to poke the bear a little bit and say stop it. If anyone has any questions that you would like to ask Kim, our presidential diamond leader on this call right now, please pop them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself. This is your opportunity to really get all the nuggets of gold from Kim while she's here with us tonight. So jump on in, you guys. Let's have a little look-see. You can give me a wave if you, I think. Or do any of the other mentors have any questions that you guys want to ask? Danielle, are you waving at me or no? You want to fly away?
No, I think that was great.
Awesome.
Oh.
So good. I'm just trying to think if I can get you to answer anything. Here's a question. What do you do to keep yourself really motivated? Because you're very internally driven. I know you don't seek that from outside, from other people. What do you do to keep yourself, motivated and driven to reach those goals, even on those hard days, or when it's end of month and you're just like, oh my goodness, is this going to happen or not?
Yeah, I am very internal driven. So just to give you an idea, I don't think I've ever in 4 years rang up Tara and told her an issue going on ever in my business. Like, I've never told her that I don't know how I'm going to do this, or my team's falling apart, or anything like that. Whenever I had calls with her, it would always just be, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. I remember early on saying, like, sometimes I would tell her things that were happening, but then I would say, but it's okay because I'm going to find another builder to go in that spot. So for me, my motivation has always been my why and my vision. Like, that has always been enough for me. I haven't needed anybody else to motivate me. So in saying that, I do a lot of personal development. So I do a lot of reading. I read a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts. At the start, I was listening to heaps of network marketing podcasts. I read GoPro. I think I've read about 10 network marketing books. I would read every single doTERRA leadership magazine and find out from those diamonds exactly how they got to diamond. So a lot of that did motivate me, but I knew from the start it was up to me and I just need to make it happen. Danielle, can you talk about how you grew your business from ground level? Yes, I can. Okay, so when I first started, I obviously didn't want to do classes. And I remember thinking at the start, okay, well, I'm just going to do it online. And I'm sure you guys have probably thought about that. Wouldn't it be awesome if you could just post some things and then 20 people enrolled online? Like, I think everyone likes that. Like, when people say to me, like when I speak to one of my leaders and they say, oh, I've got a new builder, she wants to build online. And I'm like, well, don't we all want to build online? We all want magical enrollments to come through our back office because we did a beautiful post. Like, we want that, but it usually doesn't happen like that. And it definitely wasn't going to happen for me because I didn't even have a social media following at all. So I thought I want to build it online, but had no following. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to have to go do some classes and start growing my social media. So all I did, and I've shared it on my social media the last few days because it's come up as a memory. I think it was yesterday. My very first post I ever did about doTERRA was 4 years ago yesterday. And I just shared my new oils that I got and said, if anyone is interested in booking an oil class, I'd love to come do it. And I think there was 2 or 3 people that said yes. And then I think one or two of those people ended up actually doing it. And I just started doing classes at people's houses. And whenever I went to do a class, I remember thinking, I need to get classes from classes, or else this is just going to be a dead end and I don't really know how else I'm going to grow my business. So I invested a lot into my business. So having really good gifts for people if they booked classes, because my vision was so long term that I was okay if my fast start was going to be invested straight back into my business, because I was looking at diamond and presidential diamond, and I was thinking more long term. So I was investing a lot into gifts and was getting a lot of class bookings from classes. And there was times that obviously people would not show up and I would find it really difficult to get class bookings, but I would start contacting businesses. So I contacted women's gyms, I contacted yoga studios, I contacted health food stores, I contacted heaps of people and asked if I could come and do a wellness with essential oils class for their customers. I did markets, I did expo stalls, I did fundraisers, like I did all that. I set up a table in Lorna Jane stores and stood there and gave out little samples and business cards. I've pretty much done it all. Like I've done all those things. Yes, all the things, Danielle. All the things that grow our business, all the things that when people say to me, I can't book classes, I sort of think, well, there's so many other ways to grow your business. And I've tried all those things. So I did start my business in a small country town, Sale in Victoria. But I never thought, like when I hear people say to me, oh, I live in a small town, like I never thought that I was going to, because I knew I was going to be a presidential diamond, but I never thought I'm going to be presidential diamond by selling oils to people in Sale. I always thought way bigger than that. I always knew that my organisation was going to be Australia-wide or worldwide. I never thought I'm going to get to presidential diamond by signing up a few aunties and uncles and people that I grew up with in Sale. Like it wasn't even part of my mindset. So we've got to think just so much bigger. And I did. I remember days that I would sit there and go through like my phone and just Google up all the women's gyms in Melbourne. And I would think, okay, I'm coming to Melbourne in 2 weeks. I'm going to contact every women's gym and I'm going to go do classes in those gyms. And I would Google them all, call all the women's gyms saying I'm doing classes in women's gyms next month, and I was wondering if you'd be interested as well. And I'd have a sample flyer because I did a class at a women's gym in Sale, and I would show them the flyer that I had for the Sale one. So they would think that that's what I do. I just go around doing classes in gyms. And other women's gyms in Melbourne would let me do them there as well. So I would go to Melbourne and have no contacts in any of those towns and just start doing classes in all their women's gyms. And I would meet new people and enroll new people and obviously grow my team there as well. So we've just got to think way bigger than where we are and what opportunities are in front of us and create these opportunities for ourselves.
So the other thing, the other week you did a training and you were talking about that passive action versus massive action, and you've just talked about, you know, one of those massive action things that you did. What I loved in that you spoke about how you'll know if you're taking massive action, because you will make lots of calls to, it could be women's gyms, and you may not get any classes booked from that, or you may reach out to 10 people about hosting a class and maybe no one will reply back, or you might get one reply that says, no, I'm not interested. Or you may, do a class in the park and no one will show up. So sometimes we think about these things as, oh my God, this is a failure. It's not working. But the difference that I see with you, Kim, and a lot of the top leaders is they're doing those things that everybody's trying, or if not, they should be. But the difference between what the top leaders are doing, or what the people who will be top leaders, is they don't let that squash their dreams and hopes and make them stuck, but they just keep going through that, and it's part of the actual process. Like, it happens to everyone. Kim talked about advertising a class in the park, and as a presidential diamond, no one turned up.
That was a few weeks ago. Still a little bit raw. No.
Sorry.
No, it's not really. So as far as the gyms, did I find they're willing to do that? No, most were not. I got a couple. And a couple of, I remember a couple of them, no one showed up. A couple of them, people did show up, and I enrolled a few people. So some of them would share them with their members, some didn't. Some of them did not work out at all. A couple did. So phone calls or emails work better for you. I never emailed. I don't even really actually use emails a whole lot. I either phone called them or messaged them through their Facebook page. I find that people answer through your Facebook Messenger more than emails. Because I think that you get so much junk emails that you just flick through it. But Facebook Messenger, you can see when they've seen it. And it's probably harder for them to ignore that. Yeah, so either phone calling them or Facebook Messenger. But yeah, that was just an example, the women's gym. I've tried so many different things. I'd still try new things all the time. Always thinking of different ideas.
Megan asked a question earlier as well and said, if you could start again, is there any one thing you would do differently?
Yes, the one thing I would do differently is talk way more about the business with the people that I first enrolled. Because there was people that I first enrolled at the start that are probably and I know they could still do the business now, but I think they're kicking themselves that I didn't actually ask them at the start. I was sort of waiting for them, if they were interested, for them to let me know. But I wish, and I hardly ever spoke about the business ever at the start, unless it was someone I really knew really well. Didn't really talk about the business in the class. The only time I spoke about the business was if I did a social media post about the business, because that felt so much safer to me than actually talking about it. But looking back, I think that if I had those conversations early on with everyone that I enrolled and just said to them, look, this is an incredible business. I'm really going to go big with this business, and sort of get them in on my vision. I think that I would have had so many more builders at the start. How do I incorporate talking about the business? Okay, I feel like I sort of gets weaved in a fair bit. But I definitely talk about it at the start. At the start, when I talk about my story, I just talk about how I didn't know anything about essential oils, and sort of about my story, how I came across doTERRA, and then obviously how I use the oils and things like that. So at the start, I sort of mention it, and then at the end, I go into the Live, Share, Build and talk about building a business. And I just talk about that I have a global team and that I'm always looking for people in the area and if they're interested, and just sort of word it like there's a really good opportunity for them if they want to be part of that. So I talk about the start, the end. Then, of course, in my welcome email, I mention it in my welcome email and invite them to the Freedom Tribe Business Group. And then in their wellness consult, I mention it as well, if they'd like to go through the build guide with me. So yeah, I talk about the business a fair bit. And I would say probably more than 50% of the people end up doing the business that I speak to.
Awesome. Does anyone have any last questions before we wrap up? Megan wants to know, do you find most people take time to think about it or would be more rare to jump on straight away, the business?
Be more rare to jump on straight away. Well, yeah, as I said, probably 50% or more end up doing the business that I enroll, but it definitely wasn't like that at the start. I think you sort of get to the stage in your business where you're attracting more people that want to do the business with you. And I think a lot of the time, I remember like when I hit Diamond, which was after 18 months of doing the business, people would say to me, Kim, I've been watching you for the last 18 months. I love what you're doing. I want to join the business with you. Or sometimes I'd get people saying, I've been following you for 3 years now, Kim, and I want to do the business with you. When I mentioned in the class, no, they don't put their hand up straight away. I've never had someone in a class say, well, I don't think I have, say, yes, I want to do the business. Usually it's a discussion that happens later on. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, unless anyone has any other questions, I'm going to put you right on the spot, Kim, and ask you to look at those wide eyes, just like, oh. What would be your parting, like, mic drop moment? I'm really ramping it up now. Your mic drop comment to the girls in Club who are stretching in the end of month to face their fears, reach out and tick off some goals. What would be your advice at this time of the month?
My advice is that you only get stuck if you choose to be. So it's your choice whether you're stuck or you're in massive action. And I know that you guys can all be in massive action right to the very, very end. And massive action is not about creating those beautiful posts or even just jumping on your Facebook and talking about the BOGOs. Please don't just jump on your pages and talk about the BOGOs, but don't actually reach out to people individually. Like we need to be doing so much more action than just expecting people to jump onto things. So massive action looks like reaching out to people individually. It looks like massive follow-up. It looks like doing extra classes that probably aren't booked in yet and just doing pop-up classes at your house, reaching out to more people for classes. Just try and think so much bigger than you've ever thought. And any idea that comes into your head, before you get to the point of doubting yourself and thinking this might not work, just get into action and do it. Before those doubts even come into your head, just get it done.
Awesome. Yay! I love this time of the month because this is where we all come together and just so much magic is created in these last few days. It's just absolutely mind-blowing. So thank you, Kim. Thank you so much for joining us on our call tonight. We really appreciate you dropping in and sharing your story and your how you overcome fear and showing up and those big dreams and visions that you've had and how you've managed to execute it all. So thanks so much for joining us. To the girls on the call, I would really, really love for you to jump in our Operation Momentum group and write down 3 things that you took away from tonight's call. 3 things that you're going to action, 3 things that really hit home for you. Pop them in the group so we can hear about what you got out of the call as well, and I'll be putting the recording up for those that didn't quite make it on live. But yeah, thanks again, Kim, and thanks again everyone for joining us.
No worries.
Go and create magic. See ya.